Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Office Bloke Aidan.
Here we are, two of us today. Gainer still not around today, still missing. What if every US state fought each other?
Oh, who would you in, like Delaware or Rhode Island?
It's where the crazy's got to be, innit? So the crazy's going to win, innit?
Or is it just going to be the most populated state?
Yeah, it could be, but it could be strategically
Location.
state as well. Don't know, like
Alaska.
Terrain, weather, terrain that might play a part. Distance, Hawaii's not going to get involved, obviously.
Yeah, they're just chilling, aren't
No,
they?
it's just far out, isn't it? But then you've got all the crazies, Texas. Don't know, gun capital of the world. You know, of 85 guns per person and all that kind of stuff. But let's get into it. Let's find out.
United States 2025. The federal government collapses. Power falls to the states. That means every base, every port, every airfield inside their borders is now under local control. National Guard units, police forces, even Coast Guard ships, all of it now answers to the state where it sits. At first, some smaller states call for alliances. Others move fast as they understand that whoever seizes the most fuel, food, and factories will decide the future. And so, the clashes begin. So the question is, which state ends up on top? And remember, this is just a sandbox scenario. Thanks. On the West Coast, California rises as an immediate giant. San Diego alone homeports 3 aircraft carriers, a huge Marine Corps base, and a major slice of the Pacific Fleet. Washington adds Trident submarines at Naval Base Kitsap Bangor, and the Army and Air Force mass at Joint Base Lewis McChord. Oregon contributes airfields and guard brigades. Together, the coast inherits high-tech industry, major ports, and tens of thousands of active duty troops. But there's a catch. Oil. California's Navy looks unbeatable, until you remember fuel. Texas pumps over 10 times as much oil, and without imports, California's carriers and jets run dry fast. The South, by contrast, is swimming in fuel. Texas alone has the largest National Guard in the country, about 20,000 strong, plus 2 heavy Army divisions at Fort Hood and Fort Bliss. Dice Air Force Base gives them B-1 bombers, long-range strike aircraft able to reach across continents. Add Oklahoma, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, and Virginia, and suddenly the South controls the world's largest naval base at Norfolk, the 2nd Marine Division at Camp Lejeune, and Gulf refineries that keep jets and tanks roaring. On paper, the Southern Coalition looks unstoppable. The Midwest starts smaller but sits on critical assets. Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri flies B-2 stealth bombers. Lima, Ohio keeps the Abrams line rolling, while Detroit retools for trucks, armor kits, and components. And most importantly, this region feeds the rest of the country. Iowa, Kansas, Illinois, and Nebraska control America's corn and wheat. The Midwest may not start with the biggest army, but it can feed one forever. The Northeast holds important pieces too. New York has the 10th Mountain Division and attack drones in its guard. Vermont's Guard flies F-35 stealth fighters. Connecticut has the submarine base at Groton. But the region has almost no oil, little farmland, and no way to sustain.
I know it's hypothetical all this, but can you imagine the carnage it'd be if the US went to a civil war again? The absolute carnage, wouldn't it? You know, like each state for themselves. But you'd, like you say, you'd have coalitions, wouldn't you? It'd be like the South, the Northwest, the Northeast, Midwest. Everyone will sort of like start forming coalitions.
As soon as the South come together, I'm not sure there's anyone beating that. You know,
you're probably right. But it's they've got all the assets they need there, haven't they?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. But it'd be carnage, wouldn't it?
In a long war. Their only hope is forming alliances or defending their cities with sheer stubbornness. As for the small population states, Wyoming, despite its size, Delaware, Rhode Island, they risk getting absorbed in days. Within the first week, the country condenses into 4 megablocks. The West Coast Federation, California, Oregon, Washington, joined by Nevada, Colorado, and New Mexico. They know they need each other to hold the Pacific and counter Texas's power. The Southern Coalition, Texas pulls together Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, and Virginia. The Midwest Union, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas pledge to defend the breadbasket together. And the Northeast Alliance, New England, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, clinging to survival along the I-95 corridor. But not everyone makes it. By the end of week 1, the South seizes Maryland and Washington, D.C. Delaware is absorbed instantly. The Mason-Dixon line becomes a front line again. The first bigger clashes start within weeks. On the Great Plains, Kansas becomes America's Kursk. Texas armored divisions sweep north along the I-35 corridor, overrunning Wichita. Midwest defenders fall back to Kansas City, blowing bridges and using the Missouri River as a shield. Weeks of tank battles rage until the front stalls in the Kansas City suburbs. In the Southwest, California pushes Marines across the Colorado River into Arizona. They seize Hoover Dam, but it doesn't connect to Texas's power grid, so the South keeps running, while California bleeds resources holding the desert. Texas armor races out of Fort Bliss, colliding with them near Albuquerque. Urban combat around Kirtland Air Force Base turns into a nightmare. The West barely holds, but the desert front stalls out with neither side able to move forward. In the Rockies, Texas drives into eastern Colorado, aiming for the Denver area Suncor refinery complex. At first, they roll through the flat plains, but once they climb toward Colorado Springs, the mountain passes become death traps. Western Allied mountain troops ambush convoys in narrow canyons. The Rockies turn into a fortress the South can't crack. And on the East Coast, the South pushes up I-95. The 82nd Airborne and Marines spearhead the advance. Philadelphia comes under heavy artillery fire. Suburbs burn, and Atlantic-based Navy forces out of Norfolk, U.S. Fleet Forces and 2nd Fleet, tighten a blockade on New York Harbor. But the Northeast digs in. Pennsylvania's Guard and local militias turn Philadelphia into a fortress. The South reaches the outskirts, but the city refuses to fall. By month 3, the fight isn't about who has the most tanks. It's about who can still keep them running. The South controls about half of America's oil. Its refineries keep Southern tanks and jets running at full speed. The West and Northeast ration every drop. California tries bringing in oil from Alaska and Latin America, but Southern warships target the tankers at sea. New York City and Boston go dark for days at a time, surviving on Canadian power sent through Vermont and New York. The Midwest controls the Farm Belt. Iowa, Illinois, and Nebraska stockpile corn and wheat, cutting off shipments to the South as shortages start to bite. Meanwhile, the West makes a deal. They send high-tech drones and electronics, and in return, the Midwest sends grain north by rail. That quiet partnership keeps both blocs alive. Industry drives the map even further. In the Midwest, Detroit shifts to building trucks and armor kits, while Lima, Ohio keeps the tank lines rolling. Out west, Silicon Valley becomes the center for drones and cyber warfare. The South turns out ships and aircraft and runs big chip plants in Texas. But the most advanced tech still comes from Oregon and Arizona. Spare parts for aircraft are short everywhere, so all sides start stripping old planes and electronics just to keep the rest running. In the end, the South relies on numbers, while the North leans on technology. At their peak, the South controls 2/3 of America. New York is under siege. Kansas City is lost, and their tanks push into St. Louis. But the bigger they grow, the thinner their lines stretch. Convoys are ambushed in Missouri. Guerrillas blow up depots in Kentucky. The advance stalls. The West shifts to fast mobile attacks. Instead of crossing into Baja, with Mexico staying neutral, Marines use helicopters and aircraft to leap over the Colorado River, seizing crossings near Yuma and Parker before driving on Phoenix from the west. At the same time, mountain troops push through Utah and New Mexico, forcing the South back. At their peak, West Coast forces even reach Oklahoma City and El Paso, threatening Dallas itself. But their supply lines stretch too far across deserts and mountains. The advance grinds to a halt. The Midwest joins the counterattack. They retake Kansas, storm St. Louis, and even capture Louisville, Kentucky. For the first time, the South loses ground in bulk. Midwestern morale soars, but they lack the strength to push deeper. The Northeast, long battered, finally strikes back. With Southern forces overstretched, they counterattack from New Jersey. Philadelphia is liberated block by block. It's a massive morale boost, but the advance stalls in Maryland.
One thing he's not mentioning here, I know it's hypothetical and it's where people are stationed, but if you're a Texan and you're stationed in New York, right? Are you fighting for New York or are you going back to Texas to fight for Texas?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Do you know what I mean? Or do you go back to Alabama or wherever you're from? And so I say I'm going back to my home state, and that's
I'm guessing you would, wouldn't you?
You've got to. I think that's the you'd have to sort of like relocate somehow.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how easy it'd be if you're under attack or if warfare started. You know, you'd be like if England goes to war with France and you're based in France, you're coming back to England to fight for England. Now you're not fighting for France, or you're not going around there. So it's the same there.
After years of grinding war, two possible endings emerge. The first, and most likely, is a Southern victory. Even battered, the South still holds the oil, the refineries, and the population pool. The West and Midwest alliance cracks under pressure. Midwestern states, sick of destruction, sign a ceasefire with the South in exchange for autonomy and trade. California is isolated, cut off from food and fuel. The South masses its armies, smashing through the desert into Los Angeles and the Central Valley. Once California falls, the rest of the West surrenders. The Northeast, starved by blockade, collapses soon after. The South dictates terms and builds a new union in its own image. There is, however, one alternative. If the West, Midwest, and Northeast manage to unite under one command, they could still win. Imagine a three-front assault. Midwest tanks pushing through Tennessee, West Coast Marines striking Texas from the west, and Northeast troops holding Southern forces in place along the Atlantic. At the same time, Special Forces hit the Gulf refineries. If Houston and Baton Rouge go up in flames, the South runs out of fuel. Their armies, stretched deep into the plains and the Appalachians, come to a standstill. Surrounded and cut off, Southern strongholds from Atlanta to Dallas fall one after another. Either way, the old United States is gone. In its place, burned-out cities, shattered farmland, and one coalition standing over what's left. The victory doesn't look like parades. It looks like ration cards, blackouts, and guerrilla uprisings. The real deciding factor isn't tanks or carriers. It's whether the alliances can hold together under pressure. And what about you? Which side would you put your bet on? If you want more, check out what happens when an Apache helicopter fights in the Vietnam.
Yeah, I think it's when you look at what the resources the South have, like you said there.
I think that comes most into play, doesn't it? It's like the most important.
It does, and I think, like you say, it depends on where you're based. That a lot of the resources or a lot of the personnel would move to where they're from, to their home state. I don't think they'd be hanging around in certain states and fighting for states.
But if you're like, let's say you're from Rhode Island and you're living in Texas, you should I might stay in Texas.
Well, for safety, you might think I'll be on. You might not necessarily fight, but if you're stationed there, I think if you're in the military and you're stationed somewhere, I think you would go back to your home state to try and defend your own state. If it went to if something like that, it's never going to happen. No, never going to happen. I mean, you might get the odd splinter state in the future that might say, we want to be our own individual, independent country.
West Virginia doesn't want to be called Virginia or something like that.
You might just see anything could happen nowadays. But that's not going to happen. I don't think. There's a full blown out civil war type
Can't
thing.
see it.
But they're always good hypothetical sort of like
scenarios. You just want to know what would happen.
Yeah, it's always. I always think about it like when I look at animals fighting, and I always think like or insects and stuff, and I always think I've said it before, like a butterfly against a moth. What wins?
I mean,
no.
I agree with you about animals, but fucking I don't care about a moth versus a butterfly.
What would win?
I don't care. It's just two small, tiny things. I'm more about like what would win between like a horse or a zebra.
But if a butterfly came flying in and I'm fighting them off in front of you, you'd lose. you'd be the first one out. You'd be like swinging like whoa, 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 right?
Yeah,
right?
probably.
You'd be like that guy at the Phillies game the other day going whoa. Yeah, but it's always a good thing that when you look at the US states, because it's so big and so vast, with all kinds of terrain and weather and individuals and rules and laws in different states.
Yeah,
and the resources, the way it's spread out like that. But I'd fancy the South straight off the bat.
Same.
I
agree.
And then if it went state to state, I'd fancy Texas to take it. Yeah,
Texas I'd fancy New Jersey.
Texas for the win, I'd say. Yeah, both of them are our home, New Jersey and Texas. So it's although we're not from there, but it's well, you're from New Jersey, if you want to put it that way.
I'll have to fight for my state.
Correct. But there you go. South wins, I say.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let us know in the comments who you think wins. Out of Aidan and the moth and the butterfly. And don't forget to like and subscribe as well. And see you on the next one.
Cheers.